there's so much variability in the volume of the music in here. It's crazy because it gets like really quiet, and another song comes on.
Are you able to filter that out of the recording?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of in the background.
Okay.
But yeah.
Well, that's the beauty of a live show, and here we are. We're live again on LinkedIn with my buddy Roy here, and I've got Michael Blumberg. Michael, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Yes, it's nice to be here.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day in Palm Springs, and you don't get every day to meet up with the leaders of our industries all in one place. So, Michael, would love to have you give us a quick background about what you do, and we'll take it from there.
Sure, Yassine. I'm a management consultant, and I've been working in the field service industry basically my entire career. I started right after college, and the reason I got into it is that I almost entered into the family business. My dad started the consulting practice that I now run back in 1969. And what we do as a company is we work with OEMs and their service partners to build profitable, thriving service companies. And typical problems we help solve are that they might have trouble with growing their top-line service revenue. Maybe they're not selling as many service contracts or extended warranties as they want. Maybe they have an offering, but customers don't understand the value proposition. Maybe they're looking at expanding into new markets, new services, and need some help. They need some third-party, objective, credible research to help validate that market entry. Maybe they're having some issues with their operations, and they want to prove to the management that they need to invest. So they'll hire us to do benchmarking and then help them identify where to make the improvement. Should it be a process improvement? Should it be training of the people? Or should it be a system solution? Should be all three. And then round it out, we work with software vendors who are trying to learn more about this industry, position their product and improve their messaging so they build brand awareness and increase their leads and build demand for their solutions by being a thought leader. And that's really what we help these vendors.
Yeah, so you have like more of a really almost a 360 view of the industry because you work with the manufacturers and by default you interface with the service organizations, but you're also looking at all the technology vendors out there and how could they integrate into this ecosystem.
That's right. You said it beautifully because I used to say we work both sides of the street, and I think it sounds better.
It sounds better that way.
Right?
Yeah. So one of I'll let you take some lead in some of the questions. I'm curious about the role of data, but
I guess I mean for me, right, and Michael, between WBR, like TSIA, and like different events, I've kind of seen you like over the years, and I know you've seen a lot of the trends that are coming out of the conferences. Do you see a big difference between like some of your like I guess is there something that's not being talked about here that you see is a key issue or that's not as high of a priority that it seems like at some of the conferences and the events versus what you're being approached for as a consultant to help companies solve?
In field service, I think we're covering all the bases here when it comes to the trends and opportunities and directions the industry is going in. There's always room to do more. I mean, for some problem is an event like this, I won't say it's a problem, but it's a challenge, is you have participants with various levels of background and understanding and development in terms of maturity of the service business. So you got to appeal to those that are neophytes or just learning and scratching the surface of solving the problems to those that are very, very advanced.
Yeah.
So,
that's a good point.
Yeah. You good?
No, and I know Yasin has some questions on the data because like I know you're involved in a lot of research and doing surveys that you use in your practice as well.
Yeah, I think the data point is that there's a lot of data out there. First of all, there's a lot of data and they don't know how to access it. So that's one problem they have to solve. The other one is sharing that data. And before it was just kind of one directional.
Yeah.
Get the technician to supply the data so we can improve the back office processes. And now let's make sure the technicians getting the data they need to get their job done. It keeps fulfilling itself.
So looking at all of this data set, it's interesting that you said you go to the back office and then you circle back to the technicians. So, like, what are some of the issues that you see in the back office that slows down technicians or costs them productivity or cost utilization? Have you seen any any recurring challenges in the back office that has impact on field service operation?
Well, one, I think it's a back office function, but it's supported by the front office, is populating the databases with problem history, the history of the problem, of the equipment rather, the problem, symptom, cause, and corrective action, and building these knowledge bases. So the back office has a lot to do with putting that together. I think also an issue is
Is it like during dispatch? You mean like collecting that information when a customer is calling in, or are they proactively making calls post service to capture that service data? So how is the back office contributing to collecting that data?
well, they're being able to organize it and put it in a structure that's searchable and accessible by the frontline people, making the investment. So one of the things that I see is that service organizations, they're very good service leaders. That's what I will tell you. They're really good problem solvers and they're very resourceful. So if they don't know how to build a case or can't build a case, they'll try to do it themselves. And sometimes you got to do a lot more than that. You got to really be able to stand up and take a leadership role in convincing your management team to invest in tools and technologies to improve the processes. And that's a back office function. You can't just rely on technicians.
Yeah.
Because it's a continuous flow, and and what data points are you looking at? Are there any certain KPIs you're looking at as tell signs that there are issues here in the back office that we need to address? Like, are you looking at average handle times? Are you looking at if you're looking at, for instance, in dispatch, successful first time fixed rate? What are you looking at? What are some of the KPIs or the data points they look at to
Yes,
identify?
that's a very good
symptoms?
question. You can get paralyzed
Yes.
by all the data points to look
Exactly.
at. And before I give you some ideas of what companies are looking at, I did a project once for a client. We were doing benchmarking, and I came up with a list of like 20 metrics.
Yep.
And they're like, no, we only need 4. There's 4 that we look at, and those are the leading indicators. And if we got those right, we know the others will fall in place. But if you were to poll people in this room, what are the top ones? I'd say first time fix rate, call resolution time, call avoidance, and those are the top 3. I'm trying to think. Probably looking at their accounts receivable, how many days aging it is, and that's actually, of course, that's a back office function.
And what does that tell you when the receivables are not at the benchmark or where they should be? Because a lot of times the issues in collection is really somewhere downstream or upstream. It's almost never in collections, right? It's probably because someone didn't collect all the information in dispatch and they didn't add it to the work order, and then or procurement didn't put the right part on there, or whatever that is, and then it comes up in collection because there's a dispute.
Missing a PO number or something, and they don't even bother to call. They just ignore the invoice because there's no PO number on it until the collections calls and says, "Why are you not paying this?" They're like, "Invoice doesn't have PO number, so I'm not doing it." Or details, point of contact, right address, right? There's all of those variables, like you said, that are upstream from the work order. And like you said, the technician putting in hours, time, materials, expenses. What triggers the billing isn't the input from the technician necessarily. They're just adding context to validate the cost.
And these are all good points. I think another thing that can happen is that you've got a customer that's crying, that's complaining, and they are. I mean, they're not complaining about the company, but they're in an emergency situation. Their system, their equipment broke down. They need somebody out there right away. Maybe someone in sales says, "I don't care, get them as soon as possible. They're a good customer." They come out, they do the work, and maybe it's on a time and materials basis, and the invoice is a small amount, and the person who requested the service really doesn't have authority to pay it. Or maybe they do have authority to pay it, but they put it somewhere, right? It never gets paid. And now somebody has to spend time following up on it.
Absolutely. And what are some of the root causes, would you say, that you typically see when you see first time? Well, first of all, you said benchmark, and I think that's one of the mission of why we are doing field FXL and field service excellence is to start collecting those benchmarks, crowdsource the collection of those benchmarks and organize it and publish it, So how does someone tell whether they're above or under a benchmark? Because there's no published benchmarks in the industry, at least not that I'm aware of. So maybe you can
Well,
better
yeah,
enlighten us. So how do we know whether we should pay attention to this? Let's take, for example, first time fixed
Yeah,
rate.
we do some benchmarking ourselves as an offering to our clients. So the first thing is to educate the customers, not the customers, the OEMs, on what parameters should they look at, what should they measure, and help them understand the relationships of these benchmarks on their processes and systems. So when you see a data point, you know what that means. You're not just managing based on the data point, but you're managing the process that drives that data point. And then it's to either talk to an expert who's been there and seen it before, or to do your own benchmarking or find a source. There's lots of published data out there. You guys just got to know where to find it. Now, of course, some of it's a little bit old, but it's still a good benchmark, right? It's still a legitimate point. Because what is a benchmark? It's just like a point. A point it gives you an idea how you compare.
A reference point. And so, and what are typically some of the root causes that you, in your, in say in the past 6 to 12 months, that have been like contributing to a lower first time fixed rate?
Well, first time fixed rate, I think it's a little bit like the Holy Grail, because you might improve, but then you offer a new product line, and it takes some time for the technicians to come up to speed. So first time fixed rate declines. And I don't know that over the last couple, there's been any major reasons why first time fixed rates change. What the drivers are: did you send the right technician out with the right skills? Did you have the parts available? So yes, in a way, there's some things that are changing that, right? Shortage of technicians, shortage of skilled technicians. So you might see your first time fixed rate drop. You might see with supply chain shortages and supply chain constraints, you don't have the spare parts available. So first time fixed rate drops. Maybe the people who are diagnosing and troubleshooting send the wrong part out.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna like. When you asked the question, those are the first two things that popped into my head. When it was like when you think about it, it's like, yeah, like we've got, you've got the, what do they call it, the silver tsunami, like the great retirement, like all that other stuff. So you actually have a lot of new technicians. So like their ability to have the experience to know what to fix and how is variable. But then, we saw during the pandemic is the supply chain. So like you do you even have the part? So you're rolling the truck, hoping the part may show up, or maybe they can fix it without the part, because it's a lot harder to get some of the materials. But I think if I had to categorize one over the other, I would think, and a lot of people have talked about it here at the conference, is the talent, right? So it's the talent and the recruitment of being able to retain, and then how quickly can you train them? Do you train them, get them up to speed? And we've seen this with just different clients, and even some of the people I've consulted with, like that's their biggest issue. Like doing maintenance is one thing, doing installation is another thing, but the level of experience that you need to be able to effectively resolve a problem at the first time, like a level of operational experience you need to have, it's a lot harder to get a technician up to speed on troubleshooting, repairing, especially when you talk about the breadth of equipment that you have. So, right, like your new techs are always the most effective at your new equipment. So the other things, because as your equipment ages, you don't have as much of a defined training program for your older equipment, just because it's probably more spread out. And so I would see issues with that in the past with some of the first time fixed rate stuff. It really depended on what you were going to fix and who you were. If you were a new employee and I was sending you to a new customer, I didn't worry about it. If you were a new employee and I sent you to an old customer, I was worried about it. If you're an old employee and I'm sending you to a new customer, I'm worried about it. So it's that mixed match between the technology, the kind of and we were talking with Brian and Cliff a little while ago, the analog technology, the digital technologies, the software-based technologies, and the fact that now it's hard, right? And I know, Michael, it's hard to get everybody up to speed at the same level at the same time. So depending on who you've got to send to fix what, and I think that's why you're saying it's so variable, right? Because you can have a tech that's absolutely awesome at troubleshooting computer problems, network problems, but send them to go fix an electromechanical problem.
100%, yeah.
And your first time fixed rate will go down. So
I was at a client. I was a little bit surprised. They had some equipment, same piece of equipment. Some of it was mechanical, some of it was electrical. They had a separate team for each problem. It's like seemed like a waste. You know, change
Yeah, you get through the electrical part. It was like, oh, actually, it's not the electrical, it's
Right.
mechanical. I'm gonna need you to sit in the other tech
exactly.
because I'm not like I brought a multimeter, not a wrench, so he's
Right.
gonna need to take it apart.
Right.
It's not the wiring, it's not me.
But fortunately, I think there's some tech solutions that could solve that variability.
Yeah.
Like augmented reality, we're seeing that as something that's helping quite a bit, where you could actually shortens the onboarding and training period. There's a couple companies where they took months to train their technicians, to onboard them and bring them and get them out in the field, months to weeks.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
That's awesome. And I mean, you're a pro at this, right? This is what. How long have you been coming to Field Service USA events?
I've been coming to field service events sponsored by different organizations really my entire career.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, I
And to
started 35
WBR
years
events.
ago. Maybe 6 or 7 years, actually.
Yeah. So you've been around
Yeah.
quite a few events.
You
Yeah,
started
I've been
coming
around.
around the same
Yeah,
time I
yeah.
did.
Yes. So is there any of the morning sessions stood out for you, or is there any session that you're looking forward to this time around?
Well, I'm going to invite everyone to come to my sessions.
Yes.
And Roy's going to be on
I
the panel
happen to
with
be
me.
on that one
Yeah,
too.
happy
Yeah.
to be on that panel. Yes, and we'll catch up on that and get some of the takeaways there.
But to give you a more thorough answer,
Yeah.
so this morning I really liked Alvaro Palombo's keynote speech on
okay,
intelligent apps. I think that's going to really help service organizations step up their game because you're going to be able to get the data to the hands of the technicians. The technicians will get the data back to the manager much quicker in a much more automated and streamlined fashion. Trying to remember who else. They're all very good.
and what was that insight about getting that data faster from the field to the management?
So-
what was it that's like?
So
for
there's
you
a
was
lot
an
of the
aha
term you might have heard of is friction,
moment?
right? Where you have to spend a lot of time trying to get information, trying to get an answer, trying to get a job done. And that's what technicians experience today. They have a mobile device and they have all these tools that's been thrown out, like AI and AR and knowledge,
Bases,
all
and
that. Yeah, but it's not easy to access, right? And it's not organized in a way that's intuitive for the technician. It's not the way the technician thinks about getting the job done. So these new apps, these intelligent apps, are thinking through what's the workflow that the technician needs, and at what stage of the workflow does he need help or she need help, and what kind of help, and where do we jump in and give them the help? We don't want them to start from the beginning again, like happens now, right? Technician's stuck. They'll maybe call a help desk, and the help desk will say, "Well, what have you done?" And we hear this, the joke about they say, "Did you make sure it's on?" Right?
Yeah.
And it's a waste of time to go through that, right? But if you start with an intelligent app, you're coming in and helping the technician where they need the help, not where you think you need the help. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and this is really a theme from a few sessions. This technician-centric development of solutions. Thinking about the job to be done.
Yeah.
What are the jobs that the technician is trying to get done? What is the desired outcome? How do they measure success from their perspective? And then how do we design our solutions around that to really unlock that productivity, but also to take maybe take the junior technicians or someone who have the aptitude, but they've never fixed these kind of certain machine, and not make experience an obstacle. Enable them with these knowledge-based tools and, like you said, augmented reality to fix machines that they've never seen in their life, but have enabled them to have that first-time fix rate. But how do you've developed a solution, but then what stood in the way is the accessibility.
Exactly.
You've spent all this time on, millions of dollars developing this tool, but it's so hard to access. Or it's one of 10 other apps I need to worry
Right.
about as a technician.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the flavor of the week, right?
Yeah.
It's
And
another-
it's
it's another
16.
tool.
Yeah. So it's not, and we talked about this a little bit earlier. It's a matter of like, what are you subtracting? Right? Like you want to
Not what
solve a
you're
problem
adding,
for
what
me.
are you
But like
subtracting?
stop adding more stuff to it. Like you
Right.
want to give me a new app, can you take some of the old ones away? Like if it's, and that's the, we've talked about digital transformation, digital consolidation, right? Like all of this stuff. And it's really nice. It's easy to do. And we're like, oh, like here's a new thing.
Yeah.
But like you said, we do like listening sessions with our technicians, and so we were live like writing down all of the apps that they use, and it filled like the logos filled 2 PowerPoint slides.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right. And so it was like 25, 30 different
Yeah,
applications
I
between
counted.
weather and like,
Yeah.
because they just, and some of them are like, they're not required to, but these are things that are helping them. Like they work outdoors. So
Yeah,
they have
I made
weather,
a list.
thunder
You're
trackers,
absolutely
all
right.
that stuff. Yeah.
I made a list. There's a white paper I wrote, and if anyone's interested in that white paper, I'm sorry, I don't remember the title. I just remember writing it, but I'll leave my information, my contact information. And I looked at the tools just based on my knowledge and experience. And I'm not a field engineer. I'm not a field service executive, but just on what I can count, there are about 25 different tools the technician might have with them. And Roy, I agree with you. I'd love to see one killer app that does it all. I don't think it will happen. I think each one of the tools they have is incrementally improvement on the other.
Yeah.
They do different things, so they're needed. But the trick is to have that app, that either an intelligent app or it's also called a service performance app. It's, being smart about what tool does that technician need at that time, so they're not spending all
In
the
the
time
workflow, like back
in
to
the
your
work.
point,
100% work.
understand the workflow, understand the steps in the job, and understand at what step do you introduce this tool to
Yeah.
reach
Exactly,
that
spot on.
desired
Yeah.
outcome. This has been what I'm getting the most out of this conference is meeting amazing people like you, Michael. We can't possibly even scratch the surface of all the exciting topics, but as the name of the show is field service excellence. So we're on a mission to crowdsource that playbook on field service excellence, and I would love to have you on more upcoming episodes.
happy
We
to
can
come on,
actually do deep dives.
Yeah.
A lot of time we come to these conferences and we come out with amazing ideas, but then you go to implement it in real life, in practice, it falls apart.
Yeah.
So really the mission here is how can we bridge that gap between hearing great ideas at a conference and then putting it together, and how can we connect that experience from one conference to another? How can we be that connector? So that's really our mission here at FXL, is to build a community of service leaders who aspire, who would settle for nothing less than excellence, but then come and not just talk about the ideas, but how are you implementing this today, and what's standing in your way, and how can we come together as a community, as a group, and mastermind around resolving these challenges? Because at the end of the day, there's more demand than there's supply for our service. No one company can gobble up all the market share that's out there. It's just a fact. So collaboration over competition, that's one of the key core values of
That's what we need to do
FXL.
as a society. We need to
Yes.
collaborate.
And so I'm looking forward to having you on more sessions
Happy
in the
to be
future.
here. And I just want to say, I think you have a great mission at FXL, and I think it's desperately needed to have a forum like this. I wish you lots of success and good luck with this.
Thank you, Michael. We
My
grow
pleasure.
with the presence of leaders like yourself in the industry who are willing to just get sidetracked from what they were doing,
Right.
pulled in and contribute your knowledge freely and openly. So I appreciate that a lot. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Michael.
Thank you for having me.
Thank
on.
you.
Thank
you,
Yeah.
Roy.
And come to our session tomorrow.
Yeah. Come.
Great panel.
All right, guys, you heard it here. Field Service USA with Michael Blumberg, and I'll see you on the next broadcast.
Thank you.
That was fun.